Hello everyone, my name is Avery Rueb. I'm from Montreal, Quebec, so I'm so happy to be in Toronto and just being with my neighbors for a little bit. I have been an educator for over 15 years. I've worked in private schools, public schools, I've worked in middle schools, high schools, post-secondary schools. I've worked in Asia, Europe, North America. I've really seen a lot, and it's my personal opinion that the traditional education system is seriously broken. You might have this same feeling if you have children or if you've recently been to school, and honestly, even if you've been to school in the last 40 years, it hasn't changed that much since then, so it is the same as it's been. Now, if this was just an issue for few people, it wouldn't be a big deal, but this siloed version of learning, the way we kind of break everything down into its pieces, where the teacher is the gatekeeper, we really privilege knowledge acquisition as opposed to the development of skills, and grades really do not have much of a relationship to a real world life. We know we're going in a bad place, and so the issue is that, as I said, it's not just a problem with 1 to 3 people, it's a problem with the entire world's population. So one of the issues that we're dealing with right now is dropout in Quebec, which is first world, very rich, comparatively to the rest of the world. 64% of the students graduate on time. And every time a student graduates, that represents a net benefit to the province of around $127,000. It's half that for non-graduating students. So it's not just an effect of that student, it's also has an effect on the state and the province in general and throughout the world. The second thing that's happening is that the students who do not graduate, and even the students that do, are facing an incredibly competitive workforce. Not just from around the province anymore, it's all over the world. And as we know, it's very exciting, but it's also very frightening. We're not just competing with humans anymore, we're going to be competing with robots and AI more and more. I don't know if anyone's seen the video about the robot that can put up sheetrock now. It can measure it and put it up. I'd never seen that before, and although it's very exciting, there's a lot of students that I work with, that's what they were looking to go into, and that is going to be an industry that is going to be changed significantly in the near future. So, as I said, I've been an educator for a very long time. I love everything about education. It's most likely an addiction, and sometimes I wish that I didn't love it as much because it is such an incredibly hard industry to work in for a million different reasons. Not only from the learning side, like it's hard to measure learning. Do we actually know what you've learned? We can kind of ask you afterwards, but it's usually just a feeling. And then from the financial side, how do you actually get products into schools that make a difference and then sell them to become a profitable and a sustainable company? So I founded an educational game company about 4 years ago. We were 3, and now we are 12. So we have 9 full-time employees. So it's awesome and incredibly difficult. I also help to run a not-for-profit, which promotes educational technology in the province. So we work directly with the Ministry of Education. It's called the Ed Tech Association. We work with the ministry, and we combine our forces. So we have competitors working in the same association. To help the ministry make better choices for its policy concerning educational technology. So the ministry just recently gave us $1.3 million to make a training facility for teachers to learn how to use educational technology in a more effective manner. So that's a whole other topic, but that's a great way for educators to band together and work to make change. Because sometimes when you talk as a specific company, they don't want to talk to you because they cannot privilege someone over someone else. And finally, I started working 2 years ago in an entrepreneurship program in a community college. It's called ASASIA, and it's also another amazing way to help students to prepare for the 21st century. It's a program where we give money to students for their student projects and their pitches, and they don't get any credit for it, but they are as motivated, if not more motivated, to these projects. So you'll see more entrepreneurship programs come into schools more and more in the future, and it is a possible way that we will change the future of education. So, another way of looking at education, and the title of my talk was A Future of Education. You can talk to 100 different people and they're going to give you 100 different ways that education is going to change over the next 5, 10, 20 years, this is one way that I believe that it's going to change. And it's through games. Everyone here, I think, is sold on the power of games for entertainment. They're sold on the power of games for engagement. But one of the amazing things about games is it fits in exactly where we want to be for learning. So it's self-motivated. If you talk to game designers frequently, they'll use the expression that a game is an interesting series of choices, or it's a problem that I want to solve. It's the idea that I want to undertake a game. That means that the game has to be well designed, which is difficult, but if it is well designed, it's something we want to do. It's learning through trial and error. I make a mistake, there's a consequence, and then from that consequence, I adjust to my next actions. It's also leveling up, so there's what we call scaffolding of learning. There's also social emotional skills, so I learn to collaborate and compete. It's as important to learn to be a leader as it is to be a follower. Games teach us to do all of these different things. At Affordance Studio, we make games for learning. And one of the games we made recently was a creature capture game, which is heavily inspired from Pokemon. So the idea is that you learn vocabulary and grammar by doing different activities to build your vocabulary and grammar. And the more you do these, the more creatures you capture. So it is very, very fun, and you get to kind of measure your learning through the capture of these different creatures. Another game that we made is inspired from Walking Dead, where in Walking Dead you are going through a choose-your-own-adventure type game. So I decided to take the left road or the right road, or I decided to save someone or not save someone. And your job is to survive in this post-apocalyptic world that was most likely caused by infectious disease. Well, we took that same idea and we made it so that as you went through this experience, your job is not only to survive, but also to understand what causes an infectious disease breakout. So what is a virus? How does a petri dish work? And also, it's not just building of knowledge, but you also build skills. You have to manipulate a microscope, for instance, in order to find out where the virus is. So it's the building of skills and knowledge. The issue with games is not that we all kind of buy into their power. It's not that they are, expensive to build, because right now it's becoming more and more democratized. The issue is how do we get them into schools? And it is a massive challenge. Anything technological is hard to get into schools for about 1 million different reasons. Getting books is not hard to get into schools, and it's not because a book is hard to get into schools, just because it's been done for so long. Educational technology is something that is new, and it requires some kind of training. So it's not only getting the right budget, making sure that budget is sustainable, and then training the teachers on it, but then it's also making good enough content that belongs in a classroom, and that requires frequently testing. So a lot of people will say, oh, well, your game is good, but have you tested it? As a research on it, and you say, well, have you ever tested that textbook? But people don't think that way. They think, well, because it's new, we want to see what effects it has, what positive effects it has. There are a lot of games that are out there that are great for learning. This is a game that's actually made by a Montreal studio called UluLab. These are some of our friends. They made this game called Slice Fractions, which uses a basic slicing mechanic. And what ends up happening is that if you cut the lava, which is in red, correctly, it will dissipate, or it will melt all the ice, so that your mammoth that's on the left side of the screen will go to the right side of the screen. And at the beginning of the game, there are no numbers. You just have to do conceptually the size of something, or I want to break this into fours because the ice looks like it's in the shape of fours. And the idea is that the more you go through the game, the more numbers appear. So you learn about fractions procedurally. It's not something, and implicitly, it's not something that someone actually explains to you. And they did do research on this game. And very competent, world-renowned researchers found that if you play this game, or if a third grader plays this game for 3 hours, their knowledge of fraction goes from a 3rd grade level to a 4th grade level. No teacher involved. And also, the 2 groups that were tested using the game, so one without the teacher and one with the teacher, both significantly outperformed just the teacher by him or herself. Now you would probably say to yourself, great, we've got a solution for fractions. I'm assuming this game is in every single school all throughout the world. It couldn't be farther from the truth. This team actually gave up on selling this game into classrooms because it was too hard. They stopped trying to do that, even though it's a great tool and the research proves it. And if you play it, I literally challenge all of you to download this and not like this game. It's very, very difficult to do. But they gave up. So now what they do is they sell directly to parents, which is a perfectly legitimate way to run a business. It's just has its own set of challenges, and it means that teachers aren't getting the benefit of this, and a lot of students aren't getting the benefits of this, especially students who don't have parents who can afford or who think to buy an application for math. This is another interesting way to think about learning games and to sell learning games. I don't know if you know who this person is. His name is Jesse Shell. He's one of the most famous game designers on the planet, and he has a lot of experience in virtual reality, and he has a studio of about 100 people in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and they do about 50% entertainment and 50% educational games. And this game called Super Chem Lab VR is actually funded as an educational game. So the idea is that instead of not being able to practice your chemical reactions at home or even at school, they have kind of made a virtual chemistry lab that you can use the headset to practice on, and it's two benefits. One is kind of extends the classroom so you can learn at home. Number two, for schools that can't afford a chemistry lab, this is a potential way for them to have a chemistry lab. And also, there's no security risks, so you can actually blow things up and no one melts their face or anything like that. That's possible. The issue is that to make this game profitable, what they decided to do was they decided to make an entertainment version, and they have a lot of skills. One of their games is called I Expect You to Die, which does very, very well in Steam, so they have an expertise in selling games themselves, and so that's what they decided to do. So that's how they're going to make this game profitable, because they don't know exactly how to sell it in schools, but they know it's important to be made. So they're going to start selling the entertainment game first, and they even made another entertainment version of this game where they're making it, which is a virtual bartender game. And if you look at the example here, what they're basically saying is we're going to sell these two entertainment games first, and we will, at the very end, maybe make some money on the education game. It's just too hard to get to schools, and especially VR with all the headsets. This does not mean, however, that games do not do well in schools. I don't know if you know this. This is also another Quebec company, pretty amazing. It's called Classcraft. Is any of your children using Classcraft or playing Classcraft? It's used by 5 million people all over the world, 70 different countries, and basically what it does is it turns learning into a gamified experience. So I get points, my teacher gives me points either by doing something like collaborating with another student or working on something and getting over something that I had a difficult time getting through. And then the student can use those points for like their health points, or their mana points, or their experience points, and they can save their teammates, they can help their teammates, and then they also can get real world benefits from this. So for instance, the teacher can say, okay, you can eat in class because you have a certain number of points, or you can sit in a particular place, or you can even have extra time on a test. It's all up to the teacher to decide how to use this, but it is very, very popular. They started about 4 years ago. They were 2 brothers, and now they're 42 people in their studio, and they've raised a bunch of times, and they are just on fire. So just to say that educational games can be sold, it's just very, very, very difficult. So what I'm going to try to talk to you about now is our studio, what we're going to try to do. And I would love to talk with anyone afterwards if you have ideas on how to make this better, but this is our plan. So one of the things that I have noticed in my long experience teaching in classrooms is that a lot of schools, like in Quebec, it's about 90% of schools have what's called a computer cart or an iPad cart. But in Quebec, about 50% of schools have stable Wi-Fi. So this means that the computer is rendered much less, shall we say, powerful because it doesn't have the ability either to interact or it doesn't have any of the ability to work with the internet. So what we thought was how could we maybe hack this potential system in order to create a solution that would therefore become attractive to schools, something that they could say, look, it's not that expensive, we could buy it. And so what we have done is we are making something that we're calling out the ice box. And the ice box is basically a pimped out Raspberry Pi where we put a learning management system on it, and the teacher can plug directly into the wall, and the students can interact with the learning management system, and then they can also interact with each other. So you can play games on it and interact with each other. And the second that the class is over, this is not connected to the internet. The second that this class is over, the teacher can go out into the hallway or into their home. They can connect this to the Wi-Fi or to the internet, and all of the students' classwork is saved. So it's like having the internet, but not having the internet. So we call it the internet without internet box. And what we're planning on doing is using games as a way to sell this box and show how effective it can be through the interactivity of games. So we call it ICE because it's interactive, connected, and engaging. So we'll go through each of the little letters. I is intelligent, so it's data-driven, so it allows the teacher to make decisions off of the teacher dashboard in terms of what's working and what's not working. There's also chatbots and adaptive testing. Adaptive testing means if I get a question right, I get a harder question. If I get a question wrong, I get an easier question. So it's just a way to increase effectiveness of time on task for the student. The C is for connected, so it's the internet without internet. Students can work together, even in a classroom that does not have Wi-Fi, which is something that has not been done before. But it also is it's a traditional learning management system. So I don't know if you've ever heard of a learning management system, but it's something where you have like a teacher login, a student login. There's a way to share content, whether it be audio, video, or text. And it's what teachers normally use when they're using a technological solution for the classroom. And the E is for engaging. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting a lot of games on this box so that we can show people the power of connectivity and gaming in classrooms where there is no Wi-Fi. So our first game is a basic trivia game. Trivia is always popular. I don't know if anyone out here is playing HQ Trivia. I played it last night with my girlfriend. It's a live trivia game. They have probably 1 million or more users per week playing it for prizes. So I play live and I can also make money. So for us, we know that teachers love trivia. There's a lot of learning to be had in a trivia game. It is basic, but it's also an easy way to onboard people into the system. Because sometimes when you give them a more complicated game, you have to explain to them how it works. And that is time and that's money, which if you're making money is great, but as we said, getting into schools is complicated. So our rollout plan is this. Right now we are finishing up the prototype. We have a soft launch coming up in January with 3 schools. After that, we have 25 more schools that we're going to be rolling this out to, 10 boxes per school. We're going to be writing up our report this summer, and we have 3 different partners who are interested in working with us. One is the Quebec Ministry of Education, because they know that they have this problem. The other one is we're going to India, and Rama I just met back there. I'm going to Vizag, India, which is the southeastern part of India, and I literally just met him at lunch, and that's where he's from. So I'm going there with a UNESCO a group to bring educational technology to this province called Andhra Pradesh, which was a province that was not educationally successful, if I understand it correctly, but they have money and they would really like to turn it around. So we're going to go there. We're going to see if we can't get a few boxes and do a few schools. And then we're also going to be working with the school that Guy La Liberté. I don't know if you know Guy La Liberté in Toronto. He's the guy who made the Cirque du Soleil. So we're going to be going there. We're going to be showing him the box and putting it into some of his schools. And if he likes it, hopefully he pushes this forward. So the other hack that we are bringing to this idea is that we're going to be selling this as a hardware model. We're not going to be selling this as a software model. So the idea is that everything in the box is free. So every time we make a new game, it's free. Every time we have a new learning experience, it's free. But the product is the box, and that's what we're going to be selling. And we think it's going to be sold between either $50 and $250, depending on our partner. And the reason is that when you buy in schools, there's different budgets. There's a software budget and then there's a hardware budget. And the hardware budget is sometimes easier to get money, and frequently easier to get money when there's no competing product out there. If you've got tablets, then you have to go through a call for proposals, and it's very complicated. But when there's no competing product like this, which solves a basic need, you can get into schools faster. So, and if anyone wants specific content, we can also develop them. So at Affordance, we do a lot of service work. So the 2 games we made that I showed you, the Pokemon game and the Walking Dead game were service projects that we did for another client. So we can actually do service if people want specific client, but at the same time we can put a lot of content on this. So it's a little like maybe a Netflix model in some ways, where you pay an ad fund what's an ad fund in English? Not a registration fee. Subscription. Sorry, my French is taking over my brain sometimes. And then all the content on there is free. So really what we're looking to do is we're looking to change the culture of schooling. We really want to make it more collaborative. We really want to make it more interactive. And what we're going to try to do that is use games, but use games in a way that no one else has, using this box to get there. If you have any feedback on our talk, if you have any advice for us, if you have any contacts for us, please come and see us, because it really does take a village to make something like this work. And I really want to thank Neil and his whole team for bringing me out here. This is a really great event. I've learned so much about all the entertainment spaces, and I can't believe it. So I'm really, really happy to be here, and I really thank you for your attention. So thank you so much.